is a 2-player head-to-head post-apocalyptic expandable deck building game, and this one takes about 30 to 90 minutes to play. And in this game, players are going to be playing as leaders of a group of survivors, and each player is going to be trying to eliminate the other player in order to claim the territory and resources as their own. Each player is going to be starting with 100 authority, and these are essentially your victory points, but the first player to lose all their authority is going to be the one to lose the game. But an interesting aspect here is that your authority doesn't only act as a counter, but is also a resource that you can spend to perform various actions throughout the game. And each player starts the game with the exact same set of 11 basic starter cards, and there's going to be an assortment of different decks of cards that you can include in the game, but the players are going to decide together which 3 that they want to include in this game. This will add a lot of variability from game to game, but it also keeps an even playing field because each player does have access to all the same cards. After the players have chosen the 3 decks that they want to play with, you're going to shuffle those decks of cards together, and then you're going to draw 5 of them and put them face down on the table in reach of both players. And since this is a deck building game, this row of cards is what players will use and replenish as they add more cards into their deck. But in order to understand how this game plays, you're going to have to understand how the cards get put out on the table, and each player is going to be managing their own little tableau of cards known as their enclave, and this is where you're going to be putting your cards into. And players are going to have 4 different wall spaces, but those just represent 3 different walls. So the 2 on the left are going to represent the left wall, the 2 in the front represent the front wall, and the 2 on the right represent the right wall. And players will each be able to deploy 2 survivors face up per wall. Inside the wall, there's reserve cards, and this is where players can have a little bit of secrecy because you can put these cards face down. And these cards offer players with a little bit more flexibility because you can either use them as additional troops in a surprise attack, or you could hold them back and keep them as defense units. Players can also add 1 attachment to each of the 3 walls, and the attachment cards are going to boost your defense and add some special effects if a player goes to attack that wall. And that's pretty much everything there is to know about the way that the cards are put out on the table, but then just going a little bit more into detail with your main survivor cards, they're going to have a cost to recruit, they're going to have a damage and defense value, and they'll also have some special abilities and synergies so that if you pair certain cards together on the same wall, it'll actually boost their effectiveness. The game plays over a series of rounds with each player having a turn as the active player, and during their turn there's going to be 3 different phases. The first phase is the deploy phase, where the active player is going to choose an opponent's wall to attack, and you're going to deploy your cards there and add up their total attack power, and you're going to deal damage first to the defending cards that they have at that wall, and then any further damage will be damage done to their authority. After that, we move into the Fortify phase, where players will be able to choose cards from their hand and then deploy them out into their wall, replacing the cards that were either played or destroyed. And then finally, there is the Dunes phase, and this is where the active player is going to be able to recruit more cards into their deck. And the way that this works is that you're going to have to pre-commit an amount of authority, and if you commit more authority, you'll be able to reveal more cards from that shared row. This creates a bit of a push your luck mechanism where you don't want to overcommit to reveal too many cards, but you don't want to reveal too few cards and then not be able to get a card that you want. And the cards themselves also have a cost to recruit them into your decks. You'll also have to consider that into your decision making as well. After that, any cards that you played get discarded into your discard pile, and then you draw back up to 5 cards, and then the other player gets their turn. And then the rounds continue like this until one of the players gets down to 0 authority, and then the other player wins the game. I think this one looks like quite an elegant design. I really like the variability with the different decks that you choose at the start of the game. And I like that there's a lot of small but really meaningful decisions, like how much authority you want to commit when you're going through the Dunes row, as well as which cards you want to pair together to best defend your wall, but also best attack your opponent. The turns look really quick and snappy, so I think this is going to pack a lot of fun decisions in a very small amount of time, which I think is a recipe for a really fun game. So if you are a fan of card battlers, I don't think you can go wrong checking this one out, and as always, I have links in the description below.